To make this work, we need a piece of wood that is perfectly straight on both sides and both sides perfectly parallel. So one way to do that is to straighten one edge on the jointer and then rip the other edge on the table saw. But not everybody has a jointer, so I'll show how to do it all on the table saw. You need something as a guide that has straight edges on both sides that are parallel. So here's a cutting guide for a circular saw, or you might have a 4-foot level, or even a piece of cut off strip of MDF. So that edge is rocking because of the bend in the wood. So I flip it over to the edge that doesn't rock. Then attach the wood to the guide with masking tape. So they move together, and that creates a poor man's sliding table saw. So I'll put that straight edge that I just cut against the fence, and then trim up the other edge straight and parallel to that edge. I'm drawing a line along one side to use as a reference for later. And now I'll cut the piece in half. If you don't have a sled, you can make the cut with the miter gauge. Now if I put those two pieces of wood against a straight edge, like the fence, and butt them together, they're going to meet up perfectly because that's the way they were cut. But the test is to flip one of them over. That's why I had the red line there. And that looks pretty good. So that means my blade is perpendicular to the table. And another test is to place the pieces of wood on a flat surface like the table saw, and then shine a light behind. And there I can see it appears to be not quite perfect. So I'm going to flip these over and see if it's the same. And now the light seems to be coming through at the bottom a little more before it was at the top. So I'd say that's, you know, very slightly off, maybe 1/10 of a degree. And if I wanted to, I could adjust the stop on the table saw and see if I can get that out, but I'm not going to worry about it. Just wanted to show the precision that is possible. One thing I want to mention is that when you're adjusting the tilt of the table saw and you come up to the 90-degree stop, just come up till you hit it. Don't try and go way past, because all that's doing is distorting the internal mechanisms of the saw and won't give you a consistent stop point. You can check whether your miter gauge is set to perfect 90 by laying the piece flat on the table. Of course that's perfect because the red line's the same. One side over, see how we do? Looks pretty good. And also on the bandsaw, you can check if the blade is perpendicular to the table. This cut was made with a 3 tooth per inch blade, so it's a little rough. I'll flip it over, but you can still see that my table is not exactly 90. To prove that, I'll flip these over as well. And now the light has moved to the bottom. It was at the top, so that shows that these truly are off to the blade. So that's something I can work on. We can do the same check on the miter saw to make sure the blade is perpendicular to the table, not tipping one way or the other. So they meet up good as cut, but flip one over and still looks pretty good. And there we are with the light behind. I think it's square, it's just a little bit of a more ragged edge than I got on the table saw perhaps. And I'll try flipping both pieces over. Yeah, it looks good, I think. Can also lay the piece flat on the table instead of flat on the fence, and that will tell whether the blade is 90 degrees this way to the fence. And they line up pretty good. A little coming through at the top there. I'll just flip. Yeah, it does look like that moved to the bottom. So that is very slightly off. That's something I could work on correcting if I wanted to get it perfect.